Hello, everyone. Today,
Hello.
um, I have Omer with me, who needs
Hello,
no
Shana Tova.
introduction, and we're also privileged to have Dan Chazan again, who he's been on before with his proposal for peace in between Israelis and Palestinians through a staged uh, risk minimization version of the two-state solution. Would that be fair?
Yes, an implementation method. When everybody talks about the two-state solution, they always talk about the final status, which is of course a thorny issue
Yes.
by itself, but only addressing the issue of implementing whatever final status one wants to implement.
Yes. Yeah.
There is a separate issue that I'm also proposing that rather than have a negotiated status, at
Yes.
this point, it is better to avoid negotiation and for Israel to present a final status based on the all Kidwa discussions, Geneva, a lot of precedents, and all the
Yes.
discussions which all Israeli representatives had with the Palestinians. It is quite possible to formulate a final status which will meet the basic demands of all. Actually, the parameters are such that there's very little leeway either way.
Hmm.
So the idea is that for Israel to actually propose a final status and propose a staged implementation scheme. Uh, yes, that's it.
Um, but um, from what I understand of it, the Palestinians do not have to accept in the early stages the final implementation scheme. It's more like, okay, we'll do this, and if you cooperate with this, then we'll move on to the next stage, and so on until you actually do have
Very
a
good.
final
Yes, precisely.
implementation. And if the
Very good.
Palestinians
Yes.
are not prepared
Yes.
to uh, um, to do what's necessary at each stage
Cooperate.
to cooperate, then you don't go on to the next stage.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So actually, there are objections to this scheme from both sides. The people who are for peace say that a negotiation is necessary, and also that the whole scheme is unnecessary because there is a Palestinian Authority, an agreement has to be signed with them, and then we can proceed. On the other side, there are a few objections, but the main one is that if the Palestinians refuse, what happens then? Will it be acceptable in terms of countries like Britain and France, who just now recognize the Palestinian state? Will they
Hmm.
understand why Israel is delaying invitation and will be able to actually the whole point is that if we refuse, Israel can hold on indefinitely without withdrawing, but with and an open-handed proposal for the peace. And the question is this reasonable? And here my claim is that this is very reasonable because there is no state, no partner of Israel who would like the result of the two-state agreement to have along the eastern border of Israel. This would invite a war which can spread into a regional war and can be very unpleasant. So it's this kind of question, I think, can be easily answered. But I would really like to hear more questions about the type of the agreement. What could be the issues with this arrangement?
Okay.
I found it's very hard to sell to Israel. Very hard. Um, as I said, the two main objections I already mentioned, but I'd like to hear more.
From a Palestinian point of view, an objection, and I would think, and this may not be an argument against the actual um, proposal that you've got, but they would think, why should we enter? Yeah, okay. If you were a Palestinian and the other side was saying, we're not going to enter negotiations with you. We're going to give you a little bit, and if you're good, we'll give you a little bit more, and if you're good, we'll give you a little bit more. It would be very difficult. It would be very difficult from a pride point of view for Palestinians to go along with that because it
And
may
that
well
that is
feel like they're being treated like a naughty child, and the parent or teacher is saying, if you're good, we'll give you a little bit more, and so on. And it's about dignity. Palestinians want to feel that they've won their freedom, that they've won their rights.
yes. Yes. Well, the of course the way it's treated by the sides is the way it actually comes out. Israel is going a little more. They're going. I mean, it'll work out this way, but they know the final status, what they're aiming. It's not like Israel will give a little more and then maybe some more. No, what it's guaranteed what Israel will proceed with a plan
Mm-hmm.
if they develop the institutions. It is the interest of the Palestinians to be able to
Mm-hmm.
create a peace-loving and stable state. It's both. It's
Mm-hmm.
not in Israel. The Palestinians don't. I assume that the Palestinians don't enjoy the war as much as we do. Nobody enjoys, and this is addressed to people who do not want to fight and who understands the
Mm-hmm.
issues. Now, if
Mm-hmm.
they're tremendous of quickly evolving into a peace-loving and stable state, they can do so. It's just their decision.
Mm-hmm.
Israel is not going. I don't think that the idea of the plan is to hold it back if they are good or bad. Is to
Mm-hmm.
is to cooperate in creating a peace-loving, stable
Mm-hmm.
state, which today is a problem. Okay? If there's going to be voting, a democracy or a democratic vote, the Hamas is going to win hands down, and that's going to be the end of that. The
Mm-hmm.
question is, those Palestinians who want peace
Mm-hmm.
understand that there are issues that they know just as well as
Mm-hmm.
we know that there are issues. And if they really
Mm-hmm.
believe there are no issues, on and proceed as
Mm-hmm.
fast as they can do.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh, but I know, I'm sure there are issues, and the Hamas cannot be vanquished in a day. And they
Mm-hmm.
want cooperation. Those who want peace do not want the Hamas to win,
Mm-hmm.
and they cannot do it on their own. The assumption is
Mm-hmm.
that they can, if they could do it on their own, the issue would be a lot simpler.
Um,
We
I'd
lost
like.
someone.
Mm-hmm.
No, no, I'm here. Uh, thanks, Dan.
You're here.
Listen, I
Okay.
mean, I think really. it's kind of, I mean, it's an interesting plan, but it kind of skirts around the main issue, which is the reason we don't have a two-state solution is because Israelis
Yes,
don't want a two-state solution. And they have made it the last 10 years, they've made it
that is
abundantly
not
clear, and they've
that.
voted repeatedly to parties
First
which
of
have
all,
no interest in a two-state solution. And there's like 80 something MKs in the Israeli parliament who oppose a two-state solution. So it's just kind of beside the point because Israelis don't want a two-state solution.
yes, yes, the votes are, that's exactly what happened, but there is a reason. The reason is because people kept saying, let's go sign an agreement with Mahmoud Abbas and we'll have peace. And whereas most Israelis were ready to buy these goods in the 1990s and 2000, early 2000, they're not ready to buy them today. They know that an agreement with Mahmoud Abbas is not going to get peace, and that's the only option that's open. That is why I'm making this proposal. This proposal is for those. There are many Israelis in the group. There are people, I don't want to mention name, but there are people who are opposed to the two-state solution as it is now, but they really would like it if it happened. If the Palestinians would come and create a peace-loving, stable state, they're happy. They don't want a Hamas state. And for this reason, the objection is not because they want some messianic view of the whole of land of Israel or something. There is 20% maybe of the people who really are committed to this, but 80%, I think, are not committed to the idea of the whole country, land of Israel idea. They just are afraid that an agreement will result in a state on the border. And the whole point of this suggestion is to circumvent this, create a situation where it is absolutely possible to guarantee that this will not happen. To give the Palestinians enough time to systems in order, because you can't do it too fast, because there's no question the starting state is a Hamas majority. Today, all the polls predict that any democratic election will result in a Hamas government. So it's clear that giving the Palestinian Authority just leaving them alone to fight the Hamas, their chances are not very good. And that's why people object. That's why people vote up on peace, because the truth is that apart from this that I am describing, there is no way to peace. There is no path that's leading to peace. And this plan is supposed to create a new path, which is different from all the other proposals, which can allow Israelis to take the risk of uh, attempting to propose a real peace. The other fear is that once Israel makes a proposal, it's committed to it, no matter what. They want time. This plan does not declares ahead of time. There are not going to be any timetables. The commitment is not to make peace. The commitment is to cooperate with the Palestinians to create a peace which is known in advance. And the known in advance is critical because the issues with previous negotiations is that at every stage, everybody suspected that that's going to be the end, and that Israel is never going to propose a reasonable agreement, and it will never get to an end. And that was it. And that's really everything. So the plan tries to cover all the angles as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I basically just disagree with you. I think that you're getting the Israeli public wrong. I think Israelis just don't want a
Well, how
two-state
is that?
solution. I think Israelis don't
Why?
want a
Why
two-state
against
solution.
peace? They want war all the time.
I think yes.
They don't
I mean,
want.
basically
What do they want?
they want either to keep the status quo or to expel Palestinians.
Well, expelling. I think this is a critical aspect. Expelling the Palestinians is basically the end of Israel because it starts a chain. Today, Israel has created relationships with the Arab countries, even the possibility with Saudi Arabia. There's peace with Egypt, peace with Jordan. Expelling them, there is no, I mean, he's not going to take them, yes, not England and not any other country. Expelling them, meaning Jordan, Egypt. Jordan, there will be a tremendous upheaval if Israel expels them. People are going to be raging. The Jordan is unstable day. There's no way that Jordan will remain stable and ready to keep peace when such expulsion occurs. That means that we trade a little bit of trouble for a big trouble, because once rocket starts falling on Tel Aviv, there are very few options to stop. No deterrence, because your Jordan is not Gaza Street. It's a big country, and deterring by is no ability to deter. The only way is to conquer Jordan, which is maybe a child play compared to Gaza, but it's still a problem. I think it's basically the end of Israel expulsion. There's no, and apparently relations with all countries are going to be broken. But the peace with Egypt is going to be gone. It's a nightmare. It's a total
Well,
nightmare.
I
So
think we're
I
Yeah, I mean,
already.
think this is not really an option.
I don't
Keep
disagree
full.
with you. I don't disagree with you. But I'm just saying that's what Israelis
Okay,
want. Israelis want to either
I don't think so.
keep
I've not met
Palestinians
no
to expel
Israelis.
them. That's what they want.
I have a
That's what they
friend
want.
who voted for Bibi. My plan, and he voted for Bibi, and he loves the plan. He says that's the way to go. So I don't think that I agree with you. Why would they not to keep the status quo? Is crazy. Keep the status quo. It's not going to stay the way it is now. The distance is going to grow. The young generation that's growing now is going to be much more aggressive. We are going the wrong way, and of course it's a cycle. The more oppressive Israel becomes, the more belligerent they become. So it's not a path; it's a dead end. And in fact,
Uh,
what I propose is, if they don't build a state, the status quo will be kept. But they have the option of creating a peace-loving, stable state. Why would Israel want it? You have to be crazy to want it. I don't know. I have lots of friends. I don't know anybody who wants it just for itself. They don't want a Hamas state on the eastern border of Israel. And I understand. Why the earth? What do you think motivates Israelis? Do you have friends? What do they tell you?
I think
Do your
genuinely
friends say that?
Israelis believe
I'm
reasonably that
sorry?
there's no. I think Israelis believe reasonably that there's no way to guarantee no, I would say that differently. First, I think increasingly most Israelis believe that Israel, all of Israel, is the Jewish state. I think that 25 years ago, 20 years ago, this
Okay.
would have been a minority opinion. But I think today that's not the minority opinion anymore. I think today for most Israelis, they believe genuinely that Israel, all of Israel and its current borders, are the Israeli state. That's it.
And Omer, would you say that's
Time to
because of
flee
what's
Israel.
can I just get a question in? Um, would you say that's because of
Yes.
demographic changes or because of the worsening of relations with Palestinians since the end of the peace process?
I think it's
Since the
mostly about
beginning of,
demographics.
sorry,
I think
you
it's
think
mostly
it's
about demographics.
so it's like you've got a higher proportion of Dati Jews who believe um, in that it's all Israel
Yeah,
and that can swing the vote.
yeah. I mean that's
Yeah.
a very short version of it, but yeah, I think if you look in 1967,
Mm.
right after the war, there was a famous ad by it's called the Movement Towards Greater Israel. And there are a
Right.
whole bunch of people, the most famous Israeli authors, writers, philosophers, whatever, everybody who's anybody. And they published this big manifest saying, um, this having gotten our land, this is our land, we have no right to give it up and ever. And this was a major power in the 1960s. We had,
Mm.
I would say, an aberration in a way that during the
Um,
1990s and early 2000, there was a counter movement, which is mostly unideological or liberal or leftist or whatever we would like to call it, which had
yeah.
this movement that's saying, um, we actually don't want this. We want a two-state solution and we want to divide the country. But the basic ideology, uh, which is very strong in Israel, and especially amongst the most religious and not just religious, but most of the religious, is very just really believe that it's their country. It's our country, their country, our country. And that's what they want. So they will tolerate the Palestinians as long as they behave. And if they won't be tolerated, they will be expelled eventually. Maybe not now, but at some point in the future, maybe. Yeah, I think
Hmm.
that's the ideology.
Then Israel is a past, is an experiment that failed, is going to disappear in 30 years, you're saying?
No,
There's not
no,
going in Israel that way, that's for sure. Not in
I
30,
think,
40 years.
I don't know, 40 years in the future is a long time, is a long time to predict. But now,
No, it's
uh,
not a long time. Look into backwards.
yeah, but it's difficult difficult to make predictions about the future. But realistically, I think you're not going to have basically you have no interest in Israel for a two-state solution. And so, unless there's some power that will force Israel's hand, which is a possibility, but unless something will force Israel's hands, I think it will
You
not go
have
for
the
a two-state
polls? Well,
solution.
what are the poll numbers? I have to check.
Sorry?
I don't know. I don't believe what you're saying. How many of your friends,
How many what? Sorry?
thinks that way? You have friends. How
I
many of
am,
them think that
I
way?
am, I am, young, Ashkenazi and secular. I'm not, and most of my friends are not necessarily Ashkenazi, but certainly secular and educated. And it's a mistake how do you say, what's the word? To see them as a representative group. But I really think that for the most Israelis, um, they basically don't want, and that's what I see in the polls. It's what I see in the election results. It's what I see in the
Well, today, what
in
polls?
the
Do you have the
rhetoric,
polls numbers?
and everything. Sorry,
What, do you have the poll numbers? I think there were polls about that, and I think you're wrong. There were
polls
many.
saying what?
You want me to find the polls? Hold on a second. I will check the polls, but I'm pretty sure that
If you
this is
see like
not
I'll give you a if you see the peace if you see the peace models, then all of the when you have public polls, then public polls are very sensitive to how you ask questions. I mean, you can get polls to get whatever result you want by manipulating how you ask the question. But if you see something like there's I forgot the name, but there's a group that monitors for many, many years, like a peace index that has been following for many, many years. And basically what they find is that support for two-state solution is decreasing all the time. And
well, of course it is, but the question is why?
because Israel has a strong ideology, which is of greater Israel, and this ideology is strong, especially among the Orthodox and ultra-Orthodox Jews, and these
Yes,
are
of course, but
the
they're
fastest
30%
growing,
of the
and these are the
population.
fastest growing members of the population. So if the
Okay,
population is
okay,
growing, then that the ideology will get stronger.
But they may be the fastest growing section of the
okay, but today they're
population.
still a
Uh,
minority.
yeah, but there's still okay. If we look at the government today, they form half of the ruling government, which
No,
has a
I
supermajority.
think you are. I mean, I think you have lots of
The Haredi
Orthodox
are
and
about a
semi-Orthodox.
quarter, and the ultra Zionists are about a quarter.
I think
Um,
if you look at
yeah,
the groups, you will have a group that you don't consider so much, but is like mostly Mizrahi and what you sort of traditional, and they are a lot closer to this view than you would give them credit. They are not very well represented in the, let's say, discourse. You will hardly see them as discourse because the discourse is strongly dominated by
yeah.
either liberal seculars or religious rightists. But there's a big uh, traditional right-wing religious group which is very much closer to the Orthodox view than it is to the secular liberal view.
You're talking about you're
Those are
talking
mostly
about
Likud voters.
um, okay. You're talking about the Mizrahi
Yeah, mostly. I mean, it's not
section.
just Mizrahi.
Yeah,
It's a little bit simplistic. But
but if
yeah,
you
I mean,
like, well,
traditionally,
yeah, what in this country we would call traditional,
yeah,
um, so rather than people who are strictly Shomei Shabbat.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
so this kind
Um,
of group,
I
which is
think that
traditional
there's
religious,
more
is
than
actually much
but
more
is
liberal
five.
yeah, but
than you
is
would
the
give them
birth
credit.
rate is that group in increasing at a comparable rate to
No, I
the
don't think
religious
so.
section?
I
Yeah,
don't think so. It's a
yeah,
decreasing group, but
yeah,
it's a big chunk of this
yeah.
group that is very right wing. And also, you will be surprised how many secular, non-religious Jews. That's why I was talking about this movement for Greater Israel, which was something
Mhm.
which was predominantly not religious and Ashkenazi. I just have
Okay.
one thing to add, which I think, if you think about it, and if you see what's happening in the world today, then this very right-wing nationalistic group that I'm describing is not unique or special. I mean, you just had these huge demonstrations in the UK against immigrants, right? You just had you have Trump, you have Brexit.
Hmm.
People have a strong feeling that this is their country and they don't want to give it what to other people. And it's basically very similar. It's basically very, very similar. It expresses itself in
At
different
the
ways.
moment, thankfully, the people demonstrating against immigrants are the minority. At least, certainly, the
Well,
extreme
Trump
people
won. Trump,
are a
Trump,
small minority.
I don't know. Trump won. Trump won in a big way in the UK. You know more about UK in the US. You know more about
Hmm.
UK politics than me, but I'm hearing that Nigel Farage may well be replacing the Conservative Party
It's
as the biggest
it's a worry.
as the
I
biggest
have to admit
as the biggest
it
political
is a
party.
worry. Yes.
AfD is now what, the second biggest party in Germany? Um, it's not it's part of something that is we're seeing it everywhere. People they like their country, they have a very strong sense to their country, and they don't want like foreigners taking
Hmm.
it over in some way. And now in Europe it's crazy because nobody's taking over anything. But in Israel it's really real in the sense that yeah, some people want to take what Israeli Jews see as their own country and they don't like it. So it's very similar.
Hmm.
Okay,
Uh,
I think you're really exaggerating the problem. I don't believe I have. I'm sorry. I
um,
don't believe that the numbers are. I know there are certainly 30% who are traditional Orthodox or whatever that kind of thing, and that they really want to believe in the wholeness of the land of Israel, and that's it. But I think there are at least 65 to 70% who are definitely, and together with the Arabs, it's certainly there is a great majority of Israelis who, if they knew it was safe, would agree to have peace. There are many, many Israelis today who do not want the whole of Israel, but they do not want a state because it's too dangerous. I think there are many of those. And the plan is addressed to those people. Now, it is true that it takes time to convince, it takes time to talk, and of course, it's important that leaders talk about the risks of the other alternative, the risk of if those people don't want Arabs they want the whole area, they have to accept them as citizens. If they don't, they have to be in a really dangerous position because South Africa didn't succeed so well in this policy. And I don't think Israel is not quite as strong as South Africa was then. So in terms of international politics, I mean, not in terms of power. And so I think that it is it in the combination, if this policy is adopted by enough people and it becomes something that's acceptable, um, uh, tradable coin of the realm, then I think it is possible to elect a government which will which will implement such a policy. Today, without an alternative, I'm quite sure that most Israelis are opposed to the two-state solution. What I'm
um,
saying is there are enough Israelis who are not for who do not. In fact, many that I talk to, they say on the contrary, they say let's get out of there because we don't want to be ruling. But when I ask them, so what will happen if it'll be Hamas? They say, that's wonderful. Then we'll have an excuse to have a war and we can throw them out of the country, which is a real fantasy and baseless, based on a total lack of thinking of the consequences of such an act. And so for this reason, education is necessary. Creating a public that is aware of such an alternative and creating and eventually leaders who can push it forward. As in the absence of such talk, there is no question that there will be very stern opposition to any two-state solution. That I agree,
can
but
we
I
turn
don't agree
again?
that the war is lost. I
Can we
think there,
turn?
if
Can we turn again to
yes,
um? Okay, at least on the Israeli side, you have a democratic system through which you can persuade more and more people that there may be a safe way to pursue a two-state solution. In on the Palestinian side, you have a government that no longer has the mandate of the people. And if you say, right, well, we need to, you need to get people who are willing to create democratic institutions that could make a two-state solution possible. The first thing that would happen
Yes.
if they manage to persuade Abbas to hold an election or have an election after he's died is that people are likely to vote for Hamas.
Look, yeah,
So,
yeah,
so
I
there
wouldn't
isn't
encourage them
the
to make.
kind of way of creating constituencies for a democracy that's going to recognize Israel.
Well, I think that this
If
is
yeah,
really this is how the whole thing of cooperation. It takes time, and certainly any precipitous election is going to result in a Hamas victory, and that's what you. But they haven't had an election in so many years. There's no reason why they have to have one now. So there's no rush to have an
but
election.
without an election, how are you going to
Okay,
create the institutions that you need for
once
a
there is an
viable
Israeli offer,
state?
what?
Yeah,
Once there
how are
is
you
an
going to?
Israeli offer on the table, there will
Hmm.
be leaders. Once there is an Israeli offer on the table,
Hmm.
and that is an effort in itself, I
Hmm.
think that, by the way, the question is how long will it take to such an effort? I don't think it'll take long once you convince a critical mass of people. If you convince even 1,000 people, then it's exponential. It's just it explodes once it becomes clear, and it's a good idea. I hope it's a
Hmm.
good idea. It'll gain
Hmm.
traction very quickly. It's exponential. People talk to people, and leaders
Hmm.
come up and say it, and suddenly something. It's like the breakup of the Soviet Union. It wasn't there, and then it was there.
Hmm.
It's exponential, and so
Hmm.
it can happen. So on the Israeli side, I am, of course, cheerful, like Omer. I mean, I understand the issues. I'm not as pessimistic as Omer.
Hmm.
As Omer. I'm a lot more optimistic. But there is, of course, the issue. Will take time. Among the Palestinians, it'll take years. It's not something that will be done from today to tomorrow.
I've got
There
one
are, but
very
if some
yeah.
leaders, for example, if Israel decides to if Marwan Barghouti
I
declares
was just
himself
going to
for
come
it,
to that.
he can change the whole picture in one day. If it happens, and if somebody else like Marwan Barghouti, who is also accepted as a popular person, or it builds up popularity, it can happen. Nobody. This is a nobody can.
Okay,
Today, the future
a
is bleak,
question to both
and
of
if we
you,
don't
but
do anything,
to both you and Omer, is which was the question I was just about to ask, is would you be prepared, given that Omer Barghouti seems to be the only, sorry, not Omer, I
Marwan
got him
Barghouti.
mixed up
Yes, yes, yes.
DBS, um,
Yeah.
that's, divest,
Marwan
boycott,
Barghouti.
sanctions. That's Omar Barghouti. But Marwan Barghouti
Yes.
is the only Palestinian who both has the popularity to win an election and and has been constantly committed to a two-state solution. The only problem is he's in prison um, on terror charges, which, if they're true, means that he's instigated terrorist attacks against civilians.
There is no question that they're true, and he does have blood on his hands. but that's a decision Israel may have to make. If it's not Marwan
Yes.
Barghouti, it has to be somebody else. But if you want peace, you do drastic steps. You find if it
Hmm.
really works. I don't know if
Yeah.
Marwan Barghouti is really
Yeah.
willing to do such a thing today, and how will he
Yes.
be interested. But if there is a leader with some charisma who can come out and say, and if they
Hmm.
start talking in the Palestinian, this will start a process. It's not something that will happen instantly.
Hmm.
It'll start a process on the Palestinian street. There is no rush to have an election. A precipitous election is certainly the end of the whole thing,
Hmm.
and there will never be peace. And so that's not what you want to do. What you want to do is to wait, allow the Palestinians to build up a leadership that's capable and ready to make peace, and then
Hmm.
eventually it'll come. Today, nobody is discussing the issues involved. Everybody's assuming that whatever there was, it'll stay that way, or it's a go-to solution of a lot of Israelis, maybe half of them, is expulsion, which is
Which is,
which people just don't understand how catastrophic that could be for Israel. This is
I,
really, basically, I
yeah,
don't
I
see
agree
Israel
it's
surviving
catastrophic
expulsion.
for everybody. And nobody has thought, you've had Trump talking about Gaza being the next Riviera.
Yes.
Um, it,
Look, okay,
and
maybe France will
nobody's,
decide to accept 5 million
yeah,
Palestinians and it'll be simple.
just as nobody really thought through how are you going to eliminate Hamas in Gaza.
Oh no,
Um,
there is a way to eliminate Hamas in Gaza. That there is. That's easy. And not the way they're doing it now. The way
mm,
to eliminate Hamas in Gaza is very simple. Israel today, not waiting to beat the Hamas, but today it says we are going to have a pact, a defense pact with the Arabs and with the Europeans, and
mhm,
it's going to reconstruct Gaza and under the auspices of the IDF will provide security. And the whole arrange, and then in cooperation, there'll be areas, fenced off areas
mhm,
created, which exclude armed militias, which will be like what the Israeli called ma'abarot, the transition camps to allow people shelter for the winter, allow
mhm,
people to leave. There'll be markets there, everything will be there, and there'll be magnets for all the Palestinians to come there to those areas, which will grow as time goes on, and they will separate completely the Palestinians from the Hamas. And then the Hamas can be easily, once it's separated from its source of power, it's powerless. It
mhm,
doesn't. It'll come apart. And for some reason, everybody says there'll be even many leaders say, well, Israeli leaders say, yes, we'll have the pact and everything, but first we have to destroy the Hamas. Well, that's ridiculous. We're not going to destroy the Hamas,
Well, I don't
and
think
and
you
as
can
long
destroy Hamas without destroying everybody, and
exactly,
that is totally unacceptable.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
I have to
the
say, I have to
Israel, the
say,
Israelis.
I
It
don't believe
can't
you can.
just,
I don't
yeah.
believe you can in any way separate Hamas from the civilian population because they will just, if you have neighborhoods without Hamas, they will just sneak in, and then if the IDF will
I'm sorry if you. I
maintain
missed what you said.
security, I said there's no way to separate Hamas from the civilian
I don't
population.
understand. You think they're going to stop people from leaving? They're going to start shooting their own
Well,
people?
they're going to walk inside there as well. You're going to have Hamas people walk
They
inside.
can walk
Israel doesn't
inside without
know
arms.
is oh yeah, but first you're
And
not
there'll
gonna
be, and
really
wait, don't forget, the moment Israel is cooperating, and there are lots of Palestinians, say 20, 30%, who understand that it is a cooperative effort, it's their interest, there'll be lots of snitchers. You'll find today you don't get intelligence because people don't snitch, of course, and those who snitch, 2 days ago what
you'll
happens
have
to them.
snitches, but you will also have Hamas members who are in very, very close proximity to Israeli soldiers, which is why they're not doing this kind of stuff, because they know that if they will actually have Israel in close proximity with the civilian population, then these people will kill them, and you cannot really prevent them from sneaking weapons into these places. We're
That you
talking about
can,
tens of
because
thousands and hundreds of thousands of people. You're not going to take all the women and strip search all these women to make sure that they're not hiding weapons. You're not going to open every cane to make sure it doesn't have a broken gun or anything inside it. And you have got tunnels all over Gaza, which allow you to sneak weapons to everywhere you want in Gaza. So I don't believe realistically you can prevent them from
I think that
from bringing
I think
weapons
that you,
anywhere.
no, I think that you can absolutely, of course, first of all, uh, uh, I think it's very, once you have, the issue is what you are, how the Palestinians view you. If you're an occupier, then there's nothing you can do. You don't have, you have, a few snitchers that you pay, and those people who take enormous risks because they know their fate. And we saw it 2 days ago, or yesterday. When was it? I don't remember. And so snitchers, it's not very good. But for their life expectancy is greatly diminished. But if you are not an occupier, you're a partner, and it's not, the IDF is there not as an occupying army, but because there is a management that is totally, that's not Israeli. The whole man, and they bring up managers from within the Palestinians to build up. They recruit the best Palestinians people to run these places. I think it is quite possible to overcome. The Hamas is not all powerful. It's all powerful when people are afraid. The moment you,
There's a commentator called Matthew Iglesias, and he has
yes,
like a five-plan peace program. And
yes,
part three of this five-plan is like Israelis and Palestinians all change their crazy beliefs and start having reasonable, normal beliefs.
yes,
I
who
mean,
will
yeah, I
hang?
mean, if Israelis and Palestinians wanted to have peace, we would have had peace. But you're like, you cannot escape over this little detail that neither Israelis nor Palestinians are particularly interested in peace. If everybody wanted to have peace, we would have had peace. We don't want
I
peace.
don't.
We don't have peace.
Wait. I think that that Gazans definitely want peace today. It's like the Germans after the war. They definitely, most of them want peace. They've had enough. They understand the consequences. There are a lot, I don't know if most of them, but there's certainly 40-50% who understand that it's their, they look what they know, what they lost. They know that they had something to lose. Now they have something to gain. They need a shelter over their head. They need the monies of the contributing countries. None of this will be available without a plan like this. And the money is how you build up things. And I think it's absolutely possible to intelligently build it so that the amount of penetration of the Hamas inside these protected areas will be minimal. Don't forget that with that, the whole idea is to build up forces among the Palestinians who will carry out, people who really believe that these things can be done. And there are. I mean, I mean, you know, what's a couple of Gazans that are on the Facebook sites, and they understand, and they're not alone. If they're talking, there must be many hundreds of thousands of others, and not millions, but hundreds of thousands who understand, and they can guide the process. They can help create a different atmosphere. Otherwise, today we're going to a war in which Israel will be totally isolated and will not win. So I don't know. It's a catastrophe, and this is, if you're asking what's the better plan, what Israel is doing today or this plan, neither is perfect. But I'm sure that this plan is feasible if you intelligently manage it. It's important to change first I'm sure there are hundreds of thousands of Palestinians in Gaza today who are saying, what the heck have we done? And you see them demonstrating. I mean, some of them you see, if they demonstrate, it takes a lot of courage. They don't do it just for fun, and they understand that they can live if they want to live. If they want to these things to persist, they can do it. The monies will not be available otherwise. They will not be able to reconstruct. They will not have shelters over there. There are lots of benefits from these corporations, and as I say, the hand that's on the money funnel is the hand that controls everything.
You're very optimistic. I like that.
I think it's an intelligent management. It's intelligent management. I think you have to get the people. You have to start with, of course, there are few. I'm sure there are still hundreds of thousands, maybe a million Palestinians who all they want is to kill Jews. But and because that's what they think is best for them. Once you get those hundreds of thousands who understand the logic, once you give them the power and you allow them to create a different atmosphere, it changes. People change opinions. They look at Germany, look at Japan and Germany. What MacArthur did in Japan is what we're trying to do in Gaza is nothing compared to what he did in Japan, a nation of tens of millions of people who were all convinced that the shogun, what they call the king, Caesar of Japan was all powerful and only one to be respected, and that's the only way life can exist. And suddenly they built a democratic country, and that's a very prosperous one. And the Germans, the same thing. I mean, the Germans loved Hitler. I mean, it's not like they didn't like him. You can say he wasn't elected in a democratic election, but after the first one, but they still, I mean, they loved him. I mean, most of them were quite happy. And it's what happened. And one day after the war, they suddenly became unhappy. They realized what the consequences are. And I think this work could have changed the opinions of many and created a conviction in many that peace is a much better alternative. And it's a
I don't
question
know
of
about how much time do we have left?
Let me
yes.
have a look. We've got. Uh, it doesn't put it. Yeah, it doesn't put the time yet. But as I'm still at work, it's probably best to wrap up because I've still got a journey home.
Yeah, I just want to say first, it's been fun, and second, I think it would be really nice to have a conversation with Dan because last time you were telling a little bit about your memories from 1948.
Yes.
And I would,
Yeah.
for one, I think it would be very interesting also for the audience to have a meeting dedicated to hear a little bit about what you remember from your much longer perspective,
Uh,
which frankly
well,
is
I was a
quite rare.
child
It's
then. I
quite
don't
rare
know.
Yeah.
to have this kind of perspective. And
I don't
I think
know.
I would be very interested, and I have a feeling that it will be something that will be interesting for everybody.
I'm not sure I
Person
have a lot to add on this, but
Personally, I'm
that's-
very interested to know because I see very little about it, about what the occupation was like between the Six-Day War and the start of the First Intifada, um, and what conditions were really like for Palestinians
You can
during
read.
those
There's a very good
years.
book by David Grossman called The Yellow Wind, which
Right.
which came out a few months before the Intifada, and it's basically a
Yes.
discussion of the Palestinian territories before the Intifada.
Hmm.
So if you want to hear
Yeah.
more about that, that's
Yeah.
a very good source.
But I'm interested as Dan Chazan has lived through that time. I'm very interested to see
Sure, sounds fun.
how it was how Palestinians were perceived by
but I
Israelis
have a
and
gap.
so
I have a gap in my thing. I was for 12 years in the United States and came back in
mm,
1970. So that period, when I came already, it was still possible. I actually went to Bethlehem and just drove with
Mm,
my wife, and we had a lovely
mhm,
visit. But
mhm,
that was the extent of it. I mean, it was nice. You could go anywhere there.
mhm.
But I can't add a lot on this subject. I really don't have
Hmm.
much to contribute.
But you don't remember the discussions, the debates, um, whether people,
Can I ask, in 1948, about how old were you in 1948?
In
in 19,
1948,
yeah,
I was nine years old.
That sounds very
So
interesting to know what you remember from
what
those
I
days.
remember
yeah.
is the nice British soldiers, how kind they were and how wonderful. They were. Our house, you had to get to our house, you needed to go through you have to pass through a checkpoint. And so, because the one of the, it was across the street from a building used by the British Army. So, but I remember it was very nice. I remember the 4 week Otzel, the great curfew, the 4 week curfew, and I
Which
remember we had
curfew?
fun. It was fun.
Sorry, which curfew?
There was a curfew. There was a curfew that the British. There were a couple of curfews, if I remember correctly, but there was one that lasted 4 weeks, I think. And the idea was to search for all these Etzel and whatever. Uh, um
And the curfew, you're not allowed to leave the house at all?
yes, yes. You have certain hours you can go for shop to shop or something. A couple of hours a day you can go out, and but. I, I really even that is my memory is vague. I just remember it was fun.
Well,
And
like I remember,
where was it?
yeah.
Where were you living?
I was living in Tel Aviv on Ayarkon Street, which is actually the big building in front of us was called known as the Red House. It was used by the British Army and then taken over by the Haganah, and that's where they put the cannon that shot the Altalena. So I remember very
Wow.
vividly the Altalena burning right in front of our house.
And you
So
said you have
and
nothing, and you says you have nothing interesting to tell. This is amazing. This is amazing.
yes,
Well,
I
well,
remember.
what's the Altalena?
The during the ceasefire in the War of Independence, it was a few week ceasefire, and of course the condition was nobody brings arms. The Etzel decided at that time the Etzel still had their own independent army of the Haganah,
Hmm.
and they decided to bring weapons into Israel which they purchased privately, mostly in the United States, I think, but also I'm not sure where other places, and they were going to run them into Israel with. And the Haganah got wind of that, and they said they were going to have none of this thing. There's no private armies in Israel, and there's only one army, the Haganah, and that was the start of the unification of integration of Etzel into
Hmm.
the Israeli army. And
Hmm.
Ben Gurion said there it's
Hmm.
not a country if we have two armies, um, and the and so they tried to dock at a number of points, and the final point they got stunk on the sandbar right in front of our house, and they were shot. There was a cannon on top of the building uh, in front of us,
Hmm.
which shot
Did
the.
did you look? Were you like looking
When
at
I
to
got
see
up
the
in the
stuff?
morning already, I saw the smoke, so I didn't see the action. I just saw the smoke, and the Altalena was in front of our house for years until it was towed away. Many years,
Wow.
people. It was a challenge to swim to the Altalena. Lots of people felt it was a great
Was
shot.
wait, so it was actually there? You could see it. You could see
Yes,
it.
yes, it was very close. I could see it very well. It's close. It was right stuck on the shore, right close.
The
Going to,
Altalena, some kind of island.
it's
No,
a
it's a
boat.
ship.
It's a
It's a
boat.
ship.
It's a ship.
Oh, it's a
It's
boat,
munition.
and it was a boat, and it was the Etzel. Oh,
I'm
it was.
It
sorry.
Was it a
was
boat? So was the Altalena? Um, so the
Yeah, it was an
Altalena was a
Etzel. It was an
boat.
Etzel boat, which was sunk
Yeah.
by the IDF or the Haganah.
I
Yes,
get you. I get you.
It's very
Um,
famous. It's like it's
right.
okay, maybe it's still very actually it's still very, very famous. It's a big bone
yes,
of contention between, let's say, left wing and right wing
Yes,
yeah.
I get you. I
Israel.
get you.
It's a very big
Yes.
thing.
Yes. Right.
Okay, it's a good
I'll
place
have
to
to
stop,
look
I
that up.
think. And I would love to hear some more stories. Okay.
Um, okay. Thanks everybody. And it's been another lovely conversation.
Absolutely.
Um,
Let me
so
just sum up one thing I want to say. As
yeah.
far as I see today, there is no path that has no dead end other than the path I'm describing. I don't see a way out. And if we don't go this way, Israel
Mm-hmm.
is going to be a binational state in the end, or it'll try to expel, which is going to really bring a total catastrophe in Israel. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
it'll happen because any Israeli leader who has any minimal intelligence would not carry out such a crazy step.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't
Mm-hmm.
expect it to really happen. But becoming a binational state is okay. I'm all for it. I mean, but most Israelis would shudder
Well,
at the thought.
I'd be all for it if I thought it could work.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Good
Anyway,
night. I think we
good
had a very
night,
good time.
everybody. Lila Tov.
Okay, it was
Night
fun
talk. Good
talking.
night. You're
Okay.
welcome.
Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Oh, and Shana Tova.
Shana
Shana tova.
Tova.
Bye
Yeah.
bye.